Well, hello and welcome. Well, today we are discussing the true state of the nation by the NPP. But I commend them. I think every opposition should do that. Once the president has given the state of the nation, it is the duty of the opposition to also come and kick and punch holes into where the president may have missed. However, in our case, you tend to realize that I think everybody's telling the truth. The president will pick bits and pieces that would favor him, and the opposition will also pick bits and pieces of the same country which will favor them. Theirs is that, look, the more holes there are in the government, the better chance we get to governing. The president will say the tighter the holes, the better I get to stay in power. So they both then present this state of the nation to Ghanaians. One saying, I've built roads, I've made hospitals. The other saying, you haven't built enough roads and your hospitals are running down. But such a state, you at home will probably be best to inform us as to what the state of the nation is. Maybe you are so comfortable, you think that, you know what, it couldn't be better. Or maybe you are so miserable, you think that, no, this thing has to change. So we are going to do this show together. I have somebody in here in studio who will obviously speak on behalf of Nanado, and then you at home and Atu Forcing will join and defend the president, and then we all come together and find out what state this nation we are living in. My name is Nanan Sakwal. This is PM Express. Don't move. We're coming back. The true state of the nation by the NPP. And I say I commend them because as an opposition, you should not wait too long. You should come in immediately and give your version of the state, because you are there to serve as a watchman, as the checks and balances. You're there to punch holes. You are closer to information than we are. So as soon as the president delivers his speech, the opposition should then come into it. But then it's up to you and I to find out, have they both been fair, or have they both just looked at only the areas that will benefit them and then present it? So that's what we're trying to find. Have both parties just picked on areas that will benefit them? Opposition has to pick on things that are really horrible to give them a chance to come back, and the government has to pick on things that are really good to give them a chance of staying in power. My guest is Mustafa Hamid, who's a spokesperson and an aide to Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, so he can definitely speak to that. And then joining us on the phone will be Kasil Atu Forcing, who's a deputy finance minister, who will also come and see if he can punch holes into what Nana Addo said. But welcome and thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And let me start with, would I be fair in saying that both parties will just pick on things which would benefit them and therefore not be fair, so that the president won't come and say, look, you know what, as for health, it's in shambles, and the opposition won't come and also say, look, after roads, they are on top? I mean,
well, it's a yes and no. It's a yes and no, because the yes aspect is that every political party ought to sing its own song. So fundamentally, you should expect that the NDC would sing their good songs, and the NPP will sing their good songs also. So that's the yes part of it. But the no part of it is that the president delivered what he termed the state of our country. And throughout his presentation, he didn't give one instance, okay, of a defective system. In other words, he presented for 3 hours and 40 minutes. He painted a very rosy picture of this country. And of course, all of us know that it is not true that we are in a perfect country. And everybody knows the problems, the worries, the emasculation the poverty and so on that is going. So as an opposition party, it is also our duty, first and foremost, the duty of all political parties in the world is the education of the citizenry. Education is a number one, if you want, goal or if you want duty of a political party. So it was our duty to then say to the president, because the opposition also helps the president or the governing party to govern.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
So now that he has come and presented a very rosy picture of what is happening, we assume therefore that he doesn't know that there are problems in this country. And therefore, if he doesn't know that there are problems, it means that he will not even attempt to tackle them. So we thought that it is our duty to draw his attention to the fact that there are these problems also besetting this country. And therefore, please avere your mind to these problems also, so you can alleviate the suffering of the people. So I think that we did what we ought to do as an opposition party.
Could there, I mean, one of the statements Nana-Addo made was that there wasn't anything that the government has, probably any project they have started that has, has a success story to tell about it. I mean, was that being very critical, or would you think that's fair?
Well, I am not sure that he said that in black and white or point blank, but he indeed did punch holes in government projects. For example, he talked about the Salaga Hospital, which the president says, oh, work is progressing on a Salaga 60-bed hospital, is almost complete, etc., etc. And then just within an hour, even whilst the president was still speaking, this is the era of social media. Social media is awash with pictures of the site where the Salaga Hospital is allegedly being built. Apparently, the place has been fenced, sealed, and forgotten. So there is no work going on as far as a Salaga Hospital is concerned. And so it was our duty to expose that deception. I come from Gambaga in the northern region. That's my mommy's hometown. The government has put out, and it's on the My Joy online website, you can check it, has put out a list of 600 schools which it says were previously under trees, which it has eliminated. Amongst those schools are two schools they've mentioned, Zobzia Primary School, Gambaga, and Gambaga Girls Primary School. Zobzia Primary School, Nana, was established in 1912. Professor J.S. Nabila, who is the chairman of the National House of Chiefs, attended that school. Our own Dr. Mahmoud Baumia's father, Mumuni Baumia, attended that school, and many northern greats. Indeed, it was the first boarding school in the entire northern region, because Gambaga was the seat or head of the northern territories. So how come that a school that was built had boarding facilities in 1912? You are the ones who have eliminated it under a tree. It can only be a figment of the NDC's imagination. Number two, on that list, they have what they call Gambaga Girls Primary School. I am looking the cameras and telling the people of this country that there is no school in Gambaga called Gambaga Girls Primary School. The people of Gambaga are watching. The NDC folks in Gambaga especially. If there's any school in Gambaga called Gambaga Girls Primary School, let somebody call and dispute the fact. So you see, once you begin to expose the deception, the naked dishonesty that this government is trying to perpetuate as a way of holding on to power, we would be reneging on our responsibility if we did not expose it. So Nana is not saying that they haven't done anything at all. They have done their bit. But the fact that they are being dishonest about the way they are doing things is what we are against. For example, under President Kufuor, as he said, a kilometer of asphalt road was going for $480,000. Okay, under the NDC, it is for $1.5 billion. The average kilometer asphalt road, average cost for the whole of Africa is $500,000 US. So you are doing 3 times the African average. If this is not dishonesty and a rape of the public resource. I don't know what it is. They told us that they renovated Kumasi. I'm coming, because you are saying that they have done things. I mean, and I've heard it, not just you. People are saying that they've done things and we are not acknowledging. We are acknowledging the things. For example, Kumasi Airport. They have renovated Kumasi Airport, isn't it? We acknowledge that they've done so. They say they renovated it for $23 million. They are building an entirely new airport in Ho for $25 million. Please, I mean, how do you fathom that?
No, because Ho is just an aerodrome. Ho is just an aerodrome, so it's probably just an airstrip and a container on the side. But Kumasi may have been maybe a different story altogether. But with
Kumasi,
landing lights and the flight guiding business.
With the greatest respect, I don't think that these figures gel. There's something very wrong. And the Crown Agents, as Nanado said, Crown Agents is an internationally reputable British organization, has done due diligence on the Rich Hospital and has told us that the Rich Hospital bill is inflated by about $142,000. That one too is not Nanado saying. They haven't come out to challenge the British people. So they've done what they can do, but I think that the idea that they embark on these projects in order to, if you want, to be blunt, to steal public resources is not fair for the people of this country.
You see, we don't have a control price system.
Yeah.
And therefore, everybody offers services at their cost. So I don't know why we turn around and say, oh, that was too expensive or that was too expensive. That's how much it costs them to do it.
Okay, the last one, and then perhaps you can understand better. Right now, the government is building 6-unit classroom blocks across the country for 500,000 Ghana cedis. Okay, and then we all accepted it in this country. Now, MTN Foundation, as part of its corporate social responsibility, is also building 6 classroom blocks for certain communities. And MTN is doing it for $170,000. I'm asking, in which market is the MTN Foundation buying cement and buying iron rods and buying water?
One is $170,000.
170,000, sorry, Ghana cedis, not dollars, Ghana cedis. Okay. That's how much MTN Foundation is building. Government is building for 500,000 Ghana cedis. I don't know whether they buy cement at different prices. Cool. So when this happens, I know straight away that Mustafa, the government is being dishonest.
Mustafa, could it be that contractors are factoring the fact that, look, they're going to pay me in the next 2-3 years, so I might as well inflate the price, because I'm not going, if I charge 170 now, by the time I get that money, I won't be able to pay back my supplies. Could that be the issue?
Well, then why would government be embarking on projects for which it does not intend to pay? I mean, you shouldn't even start a project if you know that you don't have. I was thinking that you start a project based on a budgetary allocation, that this year we are, and for the District Assembly Common Fund, it's always there. I mean, we know that every year the budget allocates this to each number of districts, and they would then decide that we're going to build a school at Krabeshe or at this village, So the excuse doesn't hold that because they don't have money and they don't pay people, that's how these costs are inflated.
Let me put this information out, because I've gotten quite a bit of bashing. Say, Joy TV, you are very biased. When President Mahama presented, you brought Kweku Kwatin, and today Mustafa is also there. This is Nana Kusi from Brickman. Nana Kusi, Atufosin was meant to join us on the show. He couldn't make it. He agreed to join us by phone. His phone is off. And the same thing happened again. So it's not as if I don't make the effort to bring somebody. So I'm giving you the name that, yes, I spoke to Atufosin. The producer spoke to him. He agreed to, he wasn't able to come. He agreed to speak to us, and his phone is off. But as we're going on, I will keep trying. So it's not deliberate. It's not deliberate. Education. Mustafa, never in the history of Ghana have, they embarked on a revolution on educational structures. And clearly you commend somebody for that.
Well, I don't know what you mean by the structures, because under President Kufuor, okay, I teach at the University of Cape Coast, so I know that firsthand. The academic facilities and structures at the University of Cape Coast in particular virtually ballooned under the President Kufuor era. I live in a part of the university near the medical lecturers' flats. All those flats, we have the PSI hostel at the University of Cape Coast, which was built by under President Kufuor. The School of Medical Sciences came into stream, the large lecture theaters, etc., etc. So as for facilities, and when you go to Ho Polytechnic, I mean, nearly 80% of those facilities were put up under President Kufuor. So there is no government that does not do educational
they've done exceptionally well. They don't say nobody's done anything. I mean, they're putting up these 200 schools. Okay, fine, they haven't finished. But, you know, apparently 123 are, at a certain stage of construction. Very soon they'll come up with their 200. And that's a major feat.
My brother, you see, the problem with the NDC government is that they equate intentions to achievements. And we beg to differ on that principle, that intentions are not achievements. Now, you said to us that you were going to build 200 schools by the end of your 4th year in office, and that you were going to commission and get 50 operational every year. As we speak, only 4 are operational. As far as we are concerned, 4 over 200 is worse than a failure. It's worse than a failure. So I don't see how else we are supposed to grade them based on the fact that they intended. Otherwise, governance will be very easy.
No, but 123 are, at certain different levels of their building stage.
I get you. But what I'm saying is that what they told us was that they were going to complete and commission 50 every year. They didn't say every year we're going to try and get 50 schools off the ground. That's not what they said. They said they were going to complete 50 and commission them every year, and they will have 200 by the end of the 4th year. That hasn't happened. As I said, they've done 4 out of 200. That must be a failure.
Now, see, with regards to sometimes presidents giving information which is not there, I remember Nana making a comment with regards to the Kasua interchange. I think he quoted a price, which he came out and said, no, this price wasn't right, and therefore he may have been misinformed. I mean, could the president suffer the same fate where, some egoistic aide, puts a figure or a name in there which is not supposed to be in there?
Well, as far as we are concerned, and indeed that is the standard everywhere in the world, that the buck stops with the president. Okay? And therefore, if the president or the party in running for office makes a set of promises or manifesto commitments, and then they come into office and those manifesto commitments are not met, who do you expect me to hold responsible? Because I don't know the kinds of officials that you are talking about and who is responsible for what and so on. All I know is that the president has a duty to appoint people and ensure that those people are working to
you're a shadow
order.
Government.
Yes.
So if you can make the mistake, it means when the baton is handed over, the buck then stops as you, and you could make that mistake.
Well, we haven't said that. We haven't said that we made a mistake. It's the president who referred to Nanado as a political quantity surveyor. And we are saying that we are not political quantity surveyors. If you do political projects with political estimates, of course you will have political quantity surveyors subject them to scrutiny. And I have given you some examples here. As for the Kasua interchange, I don't have the figures here. But the point I'm making to you is that I've given you various evidences of things that look palpably inflated. And therefore, the general, if you want, view or perception out there is that this government inflates contracts, and therefore we don't get value for money.
See, the difficulty, I guess, myself and the viewers will have is, see, there's one thing about the government not spending enough on like capital investment. And then the other side, they said, no, you're spending too much and you're not spending too much. So which is which? If the cost of the projects have been inflated, then they'll be spending too much on that. But then you hear that, oh, last year they borrowed 20 million and then spent only 4 million, on infrastructure, which means they did not spend enough. But then on the other side, they say, no, you inflated it too much. So, I mean, are they spending or are they not spending?
Well, what we are seeing is that we are making a comparison, and it is important to make comparisons, that under Kufuor's 8-year tenure, he got and spent 20 billion Ghana cedis in the entire 8 years. And in the entire 8 years, we can show you the things that the 20 billion did. You have gotten and spent over 90 billion. And therefore, we expected that you would have done nearly 5 times what President Kufuor did.
Let me take a break, and then we'll look at the population size, the price of goods when we had a 20 billion till now, and see if we can make a fair comparison on that. But let me just say that I'm still trying Atu's phone, and it's still off, but I'll keep trying. Don't move. Well, thank you very much for staying. 0560 800 000. 0560 800 000. So I'll take some of your messages. This one is from barima.asare in Gine. Says, Nana, let me grant Mustafa Hamid his utter struggle to defend the albeit unnecessary exercise by his flag bearer today. How do you decide to punch holes into President Mohammed's address without providing what you would do should you win power? God forbid, though. Thank God they have seen the light and are acknowledging John Mahama is transforming. An NPP MP who is the ranking member on the Roads and Transport Committee himself exposed Nanado so that for me is instructive enough. Hashtag choose Nanado from Barima Kobaji. Barima, thanks for tuning in and watching. Go back and get another message. This one says, please, Nana, the president over dramatization on projects in their green book took away the real state of the nation. Pa from Dunkwa. This one again says, good evening, Nana. Where did Nanado present his state of the nation in the NPP headquarters or the Parliament House? This is purely propagandist. It won't send him anywhere. Still, Nana will lose miserably in the upcoming elections. This is John from Kumasi. Keep your messages coming and I will catch up. But this 90 billion to 100 billion.
Yes, to 20 billion for Kufuor as against over 90 billion. Over 90 billion. Trying to get the real figure here.
If you look at the prices today,
yeah,
population today,
yeah,
fuel prices,
yeah,
you probably won't be able to do 5 times what you did with 20 billion.
Yeah.
So that if like you had 20 billion today,
yeah,
you would probably do 5 times less than what you did then.
We went to the IMF for a bailout of, I think, a little over $900 million. Meanwhile, if you put up all the monies that we have doled out in phony and shady arrangements and judgment debts and etc., that amounted to about 1.2 billion. We have 51 million Ghana cedis with Weyome, which we haven't collected. I followed me.
Yeah.
We have monies with JIDA, with Suba, etc., which we haven't collected. I'm putting it to you, Nana, that if we were to aggressively collect these monies, that they would be able to do much more. As I speak with you, you see, me, I don't like speaking propaganda. As I speak with you, let any teacher call and dispute this. That if you go to our education offices currently as a teacher and you are looking to get a promotion letter or any letter of some sort, you actually pay for the letter. Why? Because they say you have to pay for paper and pay for photocopy. We have reached a stage in our country's history where we can't even buy basic stationery for our education officers. 3 days ago.
Could it be just corrupt officials being mischievous?
The government simply is not providing, because this is almost official. They are doing it, teachers are paying the thing, and nobody is putting them to order. If it was illegal, the government would have said, look, but we are providing stationery, we are providing, etc., etc. So stop charging for letters. And some of the district directors tell us that if it comes to a punitive letter, it's difficult, because no teacher would pay to get a letter that penalizes him or her. You know, so that's difficult. In Tamale Hospital, just on Sunday, a brother and his convoy, a wedding convoy from Yendi, was involved in an accident. And they went to the Tamale, they rushed the victims to Tamale Hospital. They were asked to go and buy gloves and cotton from town, from Tamale town, to come so that they would be treated at the Tamale Teaching Hospital. This is how low we have sunk as a nation. Nana, the things that we are talking about is serious business. We are talking about the destiny of nearly 27 million people that has gone awry, or that is at the verge of collapse. That is what we are talking about. As for me, I like to talk concrete evidence. And that is what is happening in our country. So you cannot tell me that somebody who didn't have oil, okay, without oil resources and with just 20 billion cedis was able to do so much. And then you have this kind of resources with oil and everything, and then you are still going to hide under the excuse of years have gone by, so prices have ballooned, and so on and so forth. It cannot be accepted. Where this country has reached is unacceptable.
No, but I think if you say so, then it's not fair, because it's real that, I mean, however much Kufuor bought a bag of cement, it's not the same price that you sell the same cement today, and therefore, your value of the money you hold.
I guess that's
true.
You see, if it was just the government, that's why I told you that. If it was just the government that we had as the standard of measure, I wouldn't dispute you. Unfortunately, for them, other corporate organizations are also engaged in the same kind of business. And I just gave you the example of the MTN Foundation, which is also doing the same thing, perhaps with better quality and everything, and they are doing it for less. And I'm asking, where does the MTN Foundation buy cement? Where do they buy iron rods? They don't buy them from Cote d'Ivoire, and they don't import them from Britain. So with the greatest respect, I don't think that the government's excuses hold at all. In any case, every government ought to have priority. You see, that's why Nanado keeps saying that we cannot do this soppy budgeting and expect to develop as a nation. You ought every year or two to decide that, look, in the next 1-2 years, my priority is health. Then you put the greater part of your resources in health and get the health sector fixed. And then when you decide next that I'm moving to energy, you concentrate resources, you get energy fixed. But if you're going to have money and then you are going to spread the money thin amongst 35 ministries or so on, and then everybody is going to be doing something small, this is where we are going to be marking time. We are going to be commissioning 1 secondary school a year, and it's going to take us 200 years to be able to develop. And I don't think that that is acceptable.
Well, this is good evening, Mr. Mustafa. I am born and bred in Nararigu, and I have never heard of Gambaga Girls Primary School.
Exactly.
Thank you for giving us that vivid information.
It doesn't exist.
May God give you more years on your life. Isifu, job from
Gambaga Girls Primary. Yeah, it doesn't
Gambaga
exist. I'm from Gambaga, it doesn't exist.
Okay, this one says, good evening, and please ask the Mustafa to find out from His Excellency President Mahama when he will consider Wale Naregu Road, because he did not mention it using his State of the Nation address. And this is Umar in Seibu, Gambaga. But then, all the roads can be done at once. Some will be done and then others will not. This one says, hold on. Nana, the VRA should be warned. They are not helping the security situation in Bumprugu with the intermittent night light off and the situation, and in some situations, whole night light out. Ahmed in Bumprugu. And on that subject, we move straight to energy.
Yeah.
The Dumso has now really reduced. And the president is saying that, this is the quickest ever time that energy crisis has ever been solved in the quickest possible time. But listening to Nanado, I didn't think he gave him full commendation, for solving the Dumso problem.
Well, I heard the energy expert, Dr. Adam Mohamed Amin.
Yeah.
And he postulates that the reason why we have this stability is because many of the industries that were consuming a greater part of the energy have actually closed down. Okay, those industries are shut down. I think he gave figures, because I'm not into energy. He talked about the peak demand being 2,000 or over 2,000. Now demand is about 1,000 something
1,700
megawatts. So there's actually a reduction in the demand for electricity as we speak, primarily because over the period when we had those crises, most of the industries folded up, and so they are not using. So the situation itself is artificial in the meantime, because we need the industries to work, because we need to employ people, we need people to have jobs. So we are looking for a permanent, and like Nanado said that when you have emergency power plants, and that's why they are called emergency power plants, they are not permanent power plants. If you have emergency power plants, sort of cushioning your electricity supply, then you know that you are sitting on tenterhooks, and that at any point in time, it can fail, and fail miserably. So when President Mahama looked us in our eyes and said that he was going to fix it, my understanding of that was that he was going to find a permanent solution, and not that he was going to depend on, if you want, emergency power plants. It's just a stopgap measure. So now we are taking credit for stopgap measures. I don't think that that is what we should be taking credit for. We should be taking credit when we have fully resolved the crisis, and we are sure that in the next perhaps 10, 15, 20 years, we are not going to have these crises anymore. That is when we will give government credit for having resolved energy crisis.
Well, at the moment we have about, I think, 6% deficit. And so, if you look at the trajectory, we'll just build upon. And it won't just happen in a day. And so if it's happening, it's only fair that you say, well, look, well done, and carry on.
But of course, we are very grateful. As an academic, I'm very grateful that now I can get to study and prepare my notes without having to panic that if I don't hurry up in preparing these notes, the lights will go off, etc. Nobody has said that they are ungrateful, but we are just saying that it is not yet Uhuru, and therefore it is not time to beat our chests and say that we have arrived. That's the point we are making, especially so, as I said, because the energy experts have told us that the situation that we are in now does not mean, therefore, that the problem has been solved interminably. And we are looking for solutions, if you want, let me call it terminal solutions, solutions beyond which we will not be seeking further solutions. That's where we should be.
This one is Mustafa. The Tamale Teaching Hospital has everything, including gloves. I'm a nurse there at the surgery department. My name is Umaru Ibrahim. Thanks. He comes in again and says, Nana, Mustafa is not being fair to the government, because even President Kufuor's 8 years structures that you're talking about, it was through the GET Fund, which was instituted by President Rawlings, which was passed on to the flag bearer, and his colleagues boycotted it. That means they did nothing in 8 years. Oh, that's a bit harsh. But he's saying, Umaru says he's a nurse there, and as far as he's concerned, they have gloves and cotton.
Well, I am telling Umaru, whoever he is, I just hope that there is really an Umaru Ibrahim who is a nurse at the Tamale Teaching Hospital, that on Sunday, that my brother, Latif Kadri, and his friends were involved in an accident. and they went to the Tamale hospital. I'm giving you names. So go to the Tamale hospital and find out whether the Yendi accident that happened, that when the people came there, whether they were told to go to Tamale and buy gloves and cotton or so on. So I'm saying this so that if the hospital administrators are listening and they know that it was a lie, let them hold those who were on duty responsible for what I am saying. I don't say things that I don't know.
One of the things that Nanado expressed a lot of frustration about was a health center. Now, you see, when the NHI cards were introduced, not many people were using it. So I guess, let's say if 3 million people were using it, it was fine. The system could sort of balance it. Now they're looking at, millions of people. And out of these millions, everybody seems to be visiting the doctor like, 5-6 times in a year, which is just putting a lot of pressure on the national health. And there's a limit to every endurance. There's a cutoff. And so if you look at all that weight that's suddenly put on the national health, then you say, look, they are bearing up, because otherwise it would have just exploded.
You see, if every government was to use population increase as an excuse for non-performance, then we must as well just give up as a nation. Because as for population, our population would continue to increase from a population of 5 million, whatever, in the Nkrumah era. This is where we are, and it will go up. We were projecting 25 million in 2010. Now we are projecting 27 million, and so on. So if any future government, and the basis of government is planning, and you plan for the future. I don't think that a future NPP government is going to come and tell us. If an NPP government was to come in the future and give us an excuse of the fact that when NDC was in power, we were 27 million, now we are 30 million, and therefore that's the reason we are stuck, I won't accept that kind of excuse. Look at countries like Dubai. Dubai is already projecting that in the next 15, 20 years, its oil resources may run out. So they are already beginning to position Dubai as a services center, a center for excellence for services. If you watch CNN every day, you see the advertisement they do for the Dubai Healthcare Center, where they say they want Dubai to be a center for excellent healthcare all around the world. People would come. They are going around and buying ancient relics around the world, sometimes for 100 million, and taking them all to Dubai, so that when the oil runs out, Dubai will still be a travel destination. That is a leader who has vision and who is planning for the future. And that's the kind of planning and thinking that we want our government to exercise. Not a government that is constantly thinking about the next election. We want a government that thinks about the next generation. And you know that the next generation is not going to be 27 million. It's going to be 35 million. So you shouldn't have an excuse for saying that because the generation has gone 37 million and therefore I'm handicapped.
Could they have been overwhelmed? Could they have been overwhelmed? Because, I mean, there was a sudden explosion.
I don't know about the theory of sudden explosion of populations, because all of us
of people coming onto the NHIS.
But of course, you always knew that. And in 2008 to 2008, when they were campaigning, they gave us all the kinds of plans that they were going to have for the NHIS. They talked about capitation, they talked about one-time premium, they talked about so many things, as if to say that they had a certain plan in place that will make the NHIS sustainable. So if today NHIS is in arrears of 6 months to 1 year, Kolebu alone, they owe Kolebu 8 million Ghana cedis as we speak now, that they haven't paid to Kolebu alone. And therefore, they shouldn't give us that. They should find, that's why they are government, they should find answers. They should find an ingenious way of making this thing sustainable. That's the point that we are making. Because Kufuor did well in bringing them about. And that's what Nanado challenged them today. Says, show us one social intervention that you have introduced. And those that President Kufuor introduced, you virtually collapse them.
This one is from Abubakar. It's from also Tamale. It says, Nana, Mustafa is speaking the truth. Even as of now, the Tamale Teaching Hospital lab is running a cash and carry. So this one is from Abubakar, who's contradicting what Umar said.
I don't tell contradicting lies like that.
What Umar said. They've done very well with LEAP. I mean, hundreds and thousands of people now on the LEAP program. So even though they didn't introduce LEAP, I think they've done well with the LEAP program.
Well, I don't know whether to say that they have done well, because if many more people have come under the LEAP, okay, then what it means simply is that poverty has increased. That's all. That's all it means, because LEAP is for the really very poor in our society.
Increased. Poverty has reduced by, there were all the poor people there who hadn't gotten their turn to be leaped. They hadn't gotten their turn to be leaped.
And I can understand you. You are a questioner. You ought to play the devil's advocate. But my simple logic tells me that if you have a program that is supposed to take care of really very poor people in your society, and then there were 100,000 people benefiting from that program, and in the next 2-3 years, 500 people qualify to benefit from the program, the basic logic is that the number of poor people has increased. That's all it means. I don't think that it can mean anything else. So if you impoverish the people by your policy, by the naked rape of our resources, and etc., and then you turn around and give them handouts, I don't think that that is the way to run our country. In fact, LEAP is not a program that, frankly speaking, we should be beating our chests about. We should be looking at working in such a way that we reduce and possibly get to a point where LEAP does not exist at all, where people can... Because the president says that a woman who was given 34 Ghana cedis, okay, has been able to change her life, that she was able to buy 1 piglet or whatever, and then now she has 10 pigs and so on, and that therefore her life has transformed. If 34 Ghana cedis can transform a person's life in this country, if that was true, then I don't think that the numbers that they are giving us of the people under LEAP is true.
Let me take a break here. Maybe she was an entrepreneurial woman, but when we come back, I want to find out if the baton was handed over, what would the NPP do different? What is their magic wand? Stay tuned. Thank you very much for staying, and we're looking at the true state of the nation address, which was delivered by the opposition. And I'm here talking to Mustafa Hamid, who's an aide to Nana Akufo-Addo. Let me take some of your messages. This one says, good evening, Mr. Host. We, the youth and the people of Agona and Sabah, are really scared of this national health insurance. I can confidently put my hands on my chest and tell you that the NHIS is not working. I'm telling you this because I took my little girl, who's just 1 year, 4 months, to the hospital. And can you believe, because she had this insurance card, we were not given even ORS. They were asked to go and buy the medicine from town because they had no drugs in the hospital. And if anyone wants me to prove this, I can do so very calmly. Osei Bonsu in Agona in Sabah. Say. Okay, let me get. Anyway, let's. What you see, some of the challenges that we have in this country are the systems. You give somebody 4 years, and then within that 4 years, they need to transform the country and come back and ask for another mandate. Education. There is not one sector in Ghana which we can say is working fine. If we were to hand the power over to the NPP, I mean, you can't blame the president for some of the ills. Some of the ills are just there. And so what can you do different for people to think that, oh, okay, this is it? I mean, let's start with borrowing. If you don't borrow, where do you find the money from?
Well, nobody has said that borrowing is bad. Even as individuals, every day we borrow money, both from friends and from the bank, and etc., etc. So borrowing, it's fine. It's okay. It's a human phenomenon.
Yeah.
But if you borrow money only to come and dissipate it in a very wanton and reckless manner, that is unacceptable. And that is why Nana Addo says that when we come, we will pass what he calls the Fiscal Responsibility Act,
It's already there.
It's not.
Bank of Ghana is not supposed to borrow more than a certain amount. So all those things are there.
You see, the Fiscal Responsibility Act would also place on you certain limitations in terms of how much you should spend on certain things. For example, people are now complaining about sole sourcing. Now we found an excuse to sole source almost everything instead of taking things through competitive tender. If we were to compel ourselves and tighten the laws further, to prevent governments from finding excuses to always go into sole sourcing arrangements, I think that it would do us a lot of good. Now, secondly, I'm a Muslim, and I'm sorry to permit me to quote. The Prophet says that, a Prophet of Islam says that actions are according to intentions, and every man or woman is judged according to their intention. You see, under President Kufuor, we brought metro mass buses. Then the government said that companies, individuals, etc., should advertise on these buses for a fee. So we were using the metro mass buses and making money for the state. Now enter another government, and that government decides that we will rather take money from the national coffers and dissipate it on these buses. And even so, we shall dissipate it in a very reckless manner. And therefore, you have 3.6 million taken from national kitty for purposes of bus branding. Straight away, you judge that the intention, of these two governments, one is a more noble intention, whose intention is, first of all, that let's protect the public purse and let's make money for the state. The next one intends all the time that let us spend money, let us wantonly waste the nation's resources. So it is important. It's what the Akan people call abadaye. You need a government that has abadaye. And I am telling you that that is what we need, the people of Ghana need to change in November and bring in place another Akufo-Addo government that has that compassion, that human side, that intention that says that all of the time you should bat for Ghana.
Let me answer this. This one says, Nana, you are always not calling those that cannot, you always call those that cannot honor your invitation. Fifi, Felix, Dr. Manibuama, and many others. Al-Hassan Yakubu in Jonsani, in Tamale.
Well, who should you call? You should call the best.
Who else can I call? I'm telling you that I've tried to I've tried to call. I don't want to be here, defending government. I want government to come and defend themselves. They have more facts and figures than I do. So trust me, I have tried to call. And indeed, my director keeps telling me that Atu's phone is still off. We'd spoken to him earlier, and he said he had agreed to join. Yeah. So next time, I don't know how I'll do it, but yeah, I keep trying on for your behalf.
So Nana, I'm saying that we put forward in this program today what we would also do. I saw somebody say, "Oh, but what would you also do?" That's the point I am making. So first of all, you need to have an honest intention for bringing government into being. Two, we have always said, and all the governments in the Fourth Republic have said, oh, the private sector is the engine of growth, and etc., etc. But how do you make the private sector the engine of growth if you don't allow the private sector the space to breathe and to expand and to employ people? So Nana Addo says he will remove duties on the importation of raw materials and manufacturing equipment. And believe me, if we do this, then hallelujah, manufacturers are then able to go into, because the kinds of duties that they pay at the ports itself is very prohibitive, and normally they pass this on to us, the consumers, in terms of the final product. And because of that, it takes a drain on their resources. They cannot expand, they cannot employ people. So you see, government is a very complex business that needs careful planning and careful thinking. We have thought through all of these things, and we believe that we have the human resource inside the NPP that will bring about a government that will be beneficial to the Ghanaian people.
Mustafa is saying the truth. There is no school in Gambaga called Gambaga Girls JSS. Mahama is a good communicator. You see, the word, because of the words you're using, but he comes in again and says, and I put it to you that you're not democratic because you're not reading my message. It's because I don't want to read the words that you're writing. So, you should
be more decorous.
More decorous, and I'll read it for you. Nana, I am a nurse at the Teaching Hospital in Tamale. Currently, we are short of a lot of materials, including gloves. And this is Ernest. Okay. But thank you very much for tuning in. And my brother, thank you very much for coming. I knew it was a last-minute call, and you honored it for us, so thank you.
It's been 2 years since I came. I hope to come many more times.
Yes, yes, we have something to do on religion and spirituality and everything, so I'm marking you down. But let me remind all that, as you all know, 26th of March, all roads lead to Odumasa, my 5-year anniversary big festival, and I'm taking the opportunity to invite you all, and I'll be giving you the details as the time approaches. So 26th of March, mark it down in your diary. Don't want to go anywhere. It's an amazing festival you don't want to miss. But thank you very much for watching. Tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. Thank you. Oh.